This is the Million Ways to Millions podcast, where we discover if building wealth is still possible today. Join me, Micah Hayworth, as I dive deep with the everyday success stories of those who built wealth in a variety of ways. Whether you're seeking actionable advice, inspiration, or a roadmap to financial freedom, this podcast offers insights from those who have achieved it before. Now for the episode. Matthew, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you coming on Million Ways to Millions.
Yeah.
We love to highlight the different ways people can build wealth in the modern day America in this podcast. And so I'd love having you on, and thank you for joining me.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. Which we have a really cool history where we used to go to the same homeschool group together.
Yes.
And now have both entered the real estate game in various different ways. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really excited to kind of dive into how your journey developed and how you caught on to real estate, and then the different strategies you've used of building wealth in this asset class.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I'm pretty sure the last time I saw you, you were probably like 12 or 13 or something like that. So it's been 16, 17, 18 years probably. Since we have talked last. So it's been a little while. Yeah,
and I'm excited to see everything you've done. And I follow you on TikTok, which you got over 100,000 followers on TikTok, almost 200,000.
Almost
200,000 followers.
That's been fun.
Do a lot of sharing on there, which is awesome, man. So let's talk through what first got you into real estate and walk through that kind of first discovery of trying something other than just getting a job.
So it would have been back in 2014. My wife and I got married, and we. She was working as a vet tech, making about $14 an hour. Mm-hmm. I was working as a cell phone rep at a Sprint store. Amazing. And it was harsh. It was like $8 an hour plus commission. So I want to say 2014 and 2015, I brought home about $35K a year. So
amazing.
We got pregnant and had baby number one on the way. And in 2015, we were there. We had, I'm trying to think of the exact timeline here. So we had baby on the way, and the plan was that my wife would be a stay-at-home mom, that she'd leave her job, and that we would rely on my income, which was next to nothing anyway. So me as a husband and then soon to be father, and I'm 21 years old. It's like my head is spinning, like, what in the world am I going to do to build my income? So. For me at the time, it wasn't necessarily about generational wealth and equity and all of those things as much as it was just about building passive income. Yep. I was working hard to try to grow my active income, and I did get promoted through that time. Over the next 10 years, I worked different jobs, but the most I ever made was $68K in a year with my last job that I left a couple years ago. But I was like, what can I do? And like the idea of having rental properties was definitely on the table as a way to do that. We wanted to own a house. Everybody wants to own a house for the most part, but we wanted to own a home. But off of $35,000 a year, it's really hard to get approved for a whole lot. So I want to say we got approved for about up to $110,000 or so. And I was
a quick question though, because you mentioned this kind of like on the fly of. I want to own real estate and I wanted to build passive income. Mm-hmm. Those aren't like normal, other than owning your own house, but like owning rental property, like that's not like a normal, so to speak, thought. So what spurred that thought in your mind?
So my in-laws actually are a big motivation for us. Awesome. So when I met my wife, my father-in-law was already retired at 45 years old. Doing very similar type of stuff, owning long-term rental properties. They were spending a month out of their year in Tucson, living the high life. So that's what I wanted, and that's what I, had kind of learned about it from. But when they got approved for their properties, this was prior to 2008 and stuff for most of them, and doing no doc loans and everything, where you could get approved for rental properties with very little money down. Yep. Where in 2015 it was much different. So I'm like, I can't really save up 20% down for rental property. Mm-hmm. So I was listening to different real estate investing podcasts as I'm driving to work, and I can't remember the guy that mentioned this, but he mentioned this idea of house hacking, which I had heard about. You buy a duplex or a fourplex, you live in one unit, you rent out the rest. That's what everybody assumes. Yep. But he mentioned it in a way that was different, where you buy a single family home You live in the house as you fix it up, and then you move out of the house into another home and you rent out that first house. And the reason why you're moving into them is because you can get approved for it as a primary residence on a conventional loan or an FHA. But we could get conventional financing 3% down instead of 20% down on a single family home.
And that's something people don't realize. People think the FHA loan is the only way you can get low percentage down. It's not. Like I did the same thing. Our first house, I think we did 5% down, all conventional loan.
Yep. And I even know other people who have been able to do 0% down on conventional loans. So there's some programs out there right now for that. So if your credit's in the right place and your income is sufficient, you have a VA loan. You can do that. As well. Yep. Or a VA loan. So there's different options for sure. But yeah, conventional loan, 3% down is what we did. Our first home was $92,000. It was $90,000 is what he had it listed for, but I was trying to have the lowest down payment possible. So $90,000 that we found this house at, I offered the guy $92,000 with him paying $2,000 in closing costs.
There you go.
So I'm like, I'll give you an extra $2,000 if you add that in, because for him it's the same payout, but for me it's less money down. We also found, I called 10 different banks. Found a bank that had a first-time home buyer program, and we got another $1,000 off the closing costs as well. So I only brought like $2,500 to close on this.
So you buy your first house.
This house.
You're saying, because there's a lot of people who say right now that I can't buy a first house, or it's impossible to buy a first house.
No, you
it's
totally
completely priced out, and you did it with $2,500 without a fancy FHA loan. You were just really proactive on using all the creative strategies, and then on top of that, of contacting multiple banks and making sure that you were using the best products available.
Yeah, exactly. And for anybody who says, I can't do this now, this is not going to work for me now, it's like, well, that house that I bought for $92,000 is now worth about $155 to $160, but which is still very reasonable for a house. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath, single story, crawl space. It was the definition of grandma's house when we bought it. There was carpet in the kitchen, orange shade carpet in the bedrooms, wood-paneled walls, all of these things that we learned through YouTube and my father and father-in-law coming out and kind of showing us some things as well. But we learned how to do tiling and flooring and carpet and paint and all of these things as we lived there. And we did them slowly. I'd get a paycheck and we'd have a couple $100 and we'd throw that at tiling or whatever, and we learned how to do these things as we lived there for a year. Now in the state of Iowa, you have to live in the property for 1 year before you rent it out. Otherwise, it's considered mortgage fraud. That way people aren't just buying with primary residence and then not even living there. So had to live there for a year unless there's extenuating circumstances otherwise. But yeah, so we fixed it up as we lived there for that year. Then we moved out into another property, bought this next one for $130, and 3% down on that one again. Moved into that next one, rented out that first house. My mortgage payment on that first house was about $620 a month. I rented it out for $1,200 a month.
Amazing.
And I'm just like, that was my first taste for cash flow, and I'm just blown away by this. And
incredible.
And she's staying home, and now we have, for me making $35,000 a year, seeing $600 a month in cash flow was pretty significant. So, but we did that again and again and again. We ended up moving 5 times in 5 years, renovating each house along the way, and that's how we really got started with our real estate investing journey.
That's insane. And so I think the live and flip is probably one of the most underrated ways of being able to build wealth. My wife and I did the same thing where we moved into a house, and it took a year and a half. And again, save, do a little project, save, do a little project, and then being able to sell, or we ended up selling or keeping it as a rental. And then now you have this large amount of income, and then being able to refinance as well. So being able to, you added all this equity to it, and being able to either pull it out. But there's so many options available to you if you're just willing to jump in there and do a little bit of work. And over the course of 5-6 years, you can really quickly build up a good amount.
And we did end up selling that first house after our 4th purchase because it was old and kind of falling apart, and there's only so much that caulk can do to fix things. But we sold that one, but we had bought it for $92, right? We only put about $5,000 into it as we lived there for a year. And because we did all of the work ourselves, we went to the Restore Habitat for Humanity to buy supplies. I did a countertop paint kit. That's how cheap I was. $200, and I painted this countertop. It was like this gold sparkly stuff before. So, but it worked, right? It worked, nice. And it looked nice enough to sell. We did for sale by owner for $145. So I walked away with a check for $50,000 after owning it for 3 years. So, and then I
Amazing.
use that money to roll into other stuff as well. But,
and making $35,000 a year.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, when you get a paycheck that is more than your yearly salary, it definitely puts that idea in your head. It's like, man, there's a lot of money to be made out there that people don't understand. Like, so many people are just focused on working the 9 to 5 and climbing the corporate ladder. And I mean, I remember getting a raise at my last job, and like I won't go into it. Like it's whatever. But like I had worked there for 3 years. I had a position where I worked really hard at, and it was I want to say it was a 3% raise after 2 years, and it took them forever to finally get this thing for me. But it's like,
3%.
An extra. It was like $1,900 a year. So like after being there, like this is just like, and then taxed as well. Like I don't know, but people look at that and like that's their goal is to just keep climbing. It's like, man, like. I mean, we did a flip on a condo back in 2022 down on South Padre Island. I bought this thing for $210,000. And I did that. It was an off-market deal. I made a relationship with a property manager as we were down there visiting because we spend our winters there now. But I was down there for a month working remote. Made a relationship with the property manager, and we're like, if anybody's ever selling, just let us know. And this is before like the mass exodus from California really started. But he, sure enough, he reached out to us right before we were going to head home, and at the end of January. And he's like, I've got an owner that's wanting to sell. And we went in. It was needing a lot of work, but I had seen other units in the building sell in the 230s, 240 range. He said 210. I'm like, sure, why not? Sure. Well, I moved my family back down there. We lived in it for 5 weeks as we renovated it. We were going to keep it as a short-term rental of our own. And instead of doing that, like we are running the numbers at the end again, and we're like, we'll hopefully make $500 to $1,000 a month, but it wasn't tons of money. I mean, it was still decent, but I'm like, let's see what happens. Like, let's just throw some crazy number at it. We list this thing. I bought it for $210. We put $12,500 into it to renovate it. I paid a contractor to do some tile floor and a granite countertop, and so 12.5 into it. So I've got about $225. Okay. Yep. I list it for $320,000, $319. I had 2 cash offers for $325 within 24 hours. So we sold this thing for $325,000. So I walked away with a check for almost $100,000 after 5 weeks, and at the time I was making $68,000 a year. So. There's those opportunities. Maybe those opportunities are out there. Yeah.
And it's not even like, because those opportunities are out there. Not every single deal is you making $100,000 in a couple of weeks.
No.
But if you're putting yourself out there, you're meeting the people, you're developing relationships, and also you're developing these skill sets. Yeah. So now you've prepared yourself and set yourself up in a way to take advantage of these opportunities when they come up.
Yeah. And people say it's like, well, these opportunities are never available. I can't find them anywhere. It's like, well.
You're not looking.
I forget who the quote's from. Like, you'll miss all the shots you don't take. It's like, well, man, like I'm consistently looking and I'm consistently striking out, but then every once in a while, the blind squirrel finds a nut or whatever.
Yeah.
So you never know.
And I think the biggest thing is being able to prepare for those opportunities when they come. Because I talk to people all the time, and there's these amazing opportunities they're coming across. But it is only because they're actively looking and they've prepared themselves to take advantage of it.
Exactly. 100%. But yeah, I mean, that's how we got started through house hacking. And then property number 5, I guess it was, when we moved the 5th time, we got a really good deal on a house with land. It was a ranch-style home, needed a lot of renovating, but it has 3 acres. We still live there right now, but we've been living there for 6 years or so, and we've renovated the whole house as we've lived there. Added a big pole barn, just built a 50-foot deck on the back.
Very cool.
2 weeks ago, and got
you
the
get to
entire
enjoy
kitchen.
A little bit of the house hacking you've been doing, which is awesome.
But we actually took almost 2 years from buying rental properties and focused on renovating our own house. So I used cash flow from my rentals that I had, the 3 that I had, and I used that to renovate this house that we had moved into. And our thought process was, we're going to stay here because we really like this house, and what we'll do is a home equity line of credit after we build up some equity. So we put about $50,000 into it for renovations over the course of 2 years. So pretty much solely using cash flow to do it. And then after those 2 years, so we bought the house we live in now for $180,000. It was cheap because it was a dump. And it was, but
the best value add properties are a dump when you buy them. And that's the whole point.
Yeah, 180 grand. We put 50 into over the course of 2 years. Now there is, organic appreciation as well. So like I know that that's part of this, but even outside of just the appreciation, like so we had an appraiser come out after we were done renovating. We had 230 into it at that point, 50 of renovations and the price to purchase, and he valued the home at 400. So 230,000 into it, valued it at 400. I pulled a home equity line of credit out from that equity that I had for $150,000.
Awesome.
And now I just keep recycling that $150,000 into purchases that I'm making. I had a short-term rental that I bought in 2022, October 2022, for $160,000. We sweat equity this one. We put $40,000 into it for renovations and furnishings. And at the beginning of this year, in February, I did a cash out refinance on it.
Awesome.
So my interest rate went up, but I was able to pull out $70,000 and pay off my HELOC at that point as well. And I sold the duplex that I had and paid off the rest of it there. And then we just bought another property this year, which is another short-term rental. And I used my HELOC for the down payment, the closing costs, the renovations, the furnishings. And I've added, about $90,000 worth of equity into the house again, and then in a year I'll do another cash out refi and pull that money back out and just keep reusing it. So
the HELOC is an amazing method because it's not just a single loan, because you don't pay it off and you're done, but you can continue to pay it down just like a credit card. And that's awesome because I think a lot of banks kind of see that HELOC as kind of liquid cash. So they'll count it towards liquid cash when they're looking at whatever cash you need, or liquid cash you need available. But that's great because you're essentially being your own private money lender.
Exactly.
And so you don't need to go find a flipper loan that you got to pay 35% or something like that. You're your own bank.
It's not great interest. It's like 9.25 right now, but still, it's like it's an interest-only loan.
But better
I'm only
than
paying on it when I'm borrowing it, and then when I pay it off, and it reduces my payment. So this new property, we're putting all the cash flow into paying it off until I find another property to buy, and then I'll use it again too. So
and you can determine when you use that capital, and so like versus needing to reach out to a lender to close on a specific property that may say need a lot of work to it, and they're not willing to put that valuation, but you have the 150 because you got the equity in your own home, and so you're able to use it however you want, which is awesome. And then each of these properties you buy using this as down payment, there's infinite return because you're just using the credit
So I
line.
just tell people, it's like I bought the last 3 properties that I own without using any of my own money. I'm not saving for anything. I'm just using the money, building the value up. Like I'm not buying turnkey properties. I'm buying properties that need some pretty serious cosmetic updates, and then finishing them. So like, we didn't buy any properties in 2023. We kind of took a break just because I left my job October of 2022, actually in the closing office of one of our properties because I needed proof of income to qualify for the conventional loan, but that's another story. But we had just been grinding. It's like, let's just take a break and focus on our family. But yeah, it's like now I'll spend 2 to 3 hours a week managing our properties, and I can do that from anywhere in the country that I want to, and so we travel a lot, and maybe once a year, twice a year now we'll buy a property and spend 4 to 6 weeks renovating it on our own, and if we want to. We enjoy doing it. We like to
it's fun.
We like to paint and do carpet and floor and all that stuff, so it's kind of fun, and then rent it out and rinse and repeat. So there
you go. That's amazing, man. And I love how, since you finally been able to buy your time back, choosing to spend it on something more important than money, which is being able to spend time with family. And then, having these little, I'm sure it might be fun to, I don't know how old your kids are, but being able to bring your kids along and show them kind of the work you're putting into these properties.
They help with some of it too. Let's see, 7, 6, 3, and then 1. But you know, the 1-year-old isn't so much of a help. But the other one's like we'll have them help, you know, with little painting things or taking off like light switch covers and outlet covers and doing those types of things. So they like it.
How has the real estate that you bought impacted the way you've been able to father your kids and your family?
So, you know, I think the biggest thing, and I'm sure it's this way for a lot of dads, but like income should never be something that you focus primarily on. It should be the time with your family. So for me, especially with my, you know, having 4 kids now too, it's like I wanted to be able to spend more time with my family. That's what was important to me. So, you know, my goal, it actually was maybe 3 years ago, before I got into short-term rentals. Short-term rentals really changed the game for us from a cash flow perspective. But like my goal with this was, you know, work hard now to be able to spend more time with the family and stuff, and I'll get there. But like now that I actually am able to do that, it's weird. You know, even today, like we got a long-term rental back 2 days ago, so I was installing a toilet this morning and, you know, switching some stuff out, and we're going to paint the house and things. But like I left by myself this morning because I was coming out here too, and it just made more sense. And the kids were there all day yesterday and the day before, so I didn't, you know, want to put that on them again. So
they're being at the property with you turning it.
Yep. So it's in great shape. It really does not need a whole lot. But you know, this morning, like my 3-year-old boy is just like, Daddy, can I come with you? I don't want you. I don't want you. Like, and where like I have this relationship with him now that with my daughters, I never really had that relationship at that age because they were just so used to me leaving every single day, all day long. Where like now, if I leave for the day, you know, like I like to go to real estate conferences too. It's really, really hard to leave for a few days on me and on them because they're not used to it anymore. They're used to me being there all the time, which is, it's definitely something that I will never take for granted because it's truly a huge blessing. So yeah,
that's amazing.
People ask me, like, and I openly share numbers. I don't like it when people like keep numbers themselves. It's like, you know, 10 years ago I made $35,000 a year. It's like this year my properties will probably see close to $350,000 in revenue, which to be able to 10x my income in 10 years, like I never dreamed of that possibility. But I also know it's like I can say those numbers, and you know people want to know like cash flow and stuff too. And no, cash flow is not the 350. Cash flow is probably gonna be like
that's gross, and then
200, 225 or so, which
still
like,
a lot better than 35.
Some people are like, well, I'll never see that money or whatever. But it totally, you know, depends on perspective because there's a lot of people that will, you know, like that I know, like I'm in different social groups with people who are 10xing my income, you know, who are making millions and millions. I mean, I went up to Houston a few weeks ago. I got invited to a podcast out there, and they picked me up from the airport in a Rolls Royce, and talking with these guys, and like they're making money that like I mean they spend more on putting a swimming pool in than, you know, I'll probably ever even spend on a house. But so it's all perspective. But at the end of the day, it's like when somebody asks me, you know, directly, like, you know, how are you doing, like, or whatever, it's like I would say I'm rich because not because of the money that we make, but the freedom that I have through the cash flow, you know, and mostly passive income. It's nothing's ever 100% passive, but like the freedom to be able to spend my day with my family, not have to report to a boss anymore, not need to wake up and be on some conference call or have these action items and, you know, all of these other things that I have to do and prepare for, and just be present as a dad and a father.
And I think this is something we need to be really cautious of as we're, you know, even for me, very young, and I really only started in real estate a couple of years ago, and looking at all the goals and looking at everyone who's active out there, and some of the bigger names that you see out there, there are these people who are making 10x, you know, whether it's Grant Cardone, whether it's Brandon Turner, whether it's Cody Sanchez, but we need to understand that, like, and it's great that they're doing that, and I'm super excited to watch their journeys, but most of us really getting a couple $100,000 a year so that we're very stable, nothing's going to shake us, we can take care of our family, we can take care of the emergencies that come up, and then have the freedom. That is all we need.
Yeah, I remember.
And there's no need to go
hearing,
up.
Now I love Ryan Pineda, but he's a guy that I heard say, you know, life really begins at $250,000 a year. Like that's when you really have that freedom and stuff. It's like, from his perspective, where he's making, you know, over $1 million a year in net, I'm sure. You know, he looks at 250 and he thinks, you know, that's where it starts. But like, there's a lot of people that would be like, man, if I was making 150 a year, I could just be living on the high life and stuff, and not have that struggle anymore. There's something to be said about having the financial freedom to not need to worry about budgeting and all those other things. But like, we live so far beneath our means that we can just keep reinvesting as well.
Yep.
Like that's what I enjoy.
Awesome.
Like we don't spend money on things. I mean, I drive a 2011 Honda Pilot, and my wife drives a 2016 Honda Odyssey. I paid cash for them just because it was easier to do that. And you know, or I went in for a tire rotate a few days ago on the van, like, free tire rotate from Discount Tire, and they're like, actually, you need new tires because the insides of your rear tires are completely bald. And I'm like, crap. But you know,
got all this money, can't get your tires.
We're like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I would be like, how are we going to afford this? Like, I need to spend. I mean, it was $850 for 4 new tires and an alignment done right from the shop. And I'm like, I mean, I don't even know what I would do, but like, being able to not have that stress, like that's what I would say, like, being, you know, and it totally depends on the person and where you live and stuff, I'm sure too, but like,
Awesome.
it's like, we live in a house where my mortgage payment is $1,100 a month, and my cars are paid off. I've got 4-wheelers that are paid off. I have no debt outside of mortgages. That's it.
On the property.
And
tied to investment.
I have $1.3 million in debt, but it's all just real estate.
Dave Ramsey will cringe.
I know. Like $1.3 million in debt, and people are like, well, like, then you're not doing well. It's like, well, if I sold all my properties, I would still be a millionaire because I have $1.4 million in equity. So I'm happy and I'm comfortable there, and I have tenants paying down, you know, my mortgages for me. It's like, I'm not paying them off. It's being paid off by other people, and
100%.
but then we have the cash flow to what we use our cash flow for reinvesting, and then also for experiences. So like, we just spent 11 days in Colorado. We went to Winter Park, and you know, I rented a luxury condo because that's where, like, I want my kids to be able to enjoy, like, the experiences and the time, and
thinking again more on the true value. And so money is awesome, but money is a tool to buy back your time, be able to spend time with the kids, and afford that stability, so you're not sitting there stressing to pull your hair out. That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's incredible.
Yeah, you know, it's a good feeling, and it'll, if you stick with. I know you and I were talking about, you know, what you're doing and stuff too. It's like, stick with it, be consistent. The quote that I've always like lived by from the start of this is, use your weekends and evenings to build the life you want, not escape the life you have. There's so many people where they say, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the knowledge. It's like, use your spare time to build your knowledge. Like, when you're going into work, you know, listen to stuff that's educational to you, so you can build that skill set. And then, instead of, you know, you clock out at 5 and, oh, I'm just so tired, like, I need to go home and I need to, you know, sit down and watch TV or the latest show or the latest sports, or what. Like, dude, I don't even watch sports. Like, and I know, like, some people are gonna be like, well, you're super lame, like, you should be watching sports. It's like, you know, like, maybe now I could get into it more since I have more time, but it's like, before, I didn't have the time. Like, I had the time, but I didn't want to use the time for that. I would rather use the time to build. So I would get off work at, you know, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever. I would drive to a rental house. I mean, like, when 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we stopped house hacking and we were buying rental properties that were not at our house. Now, before that time, I'd come home and just do it, but then, you know, because we'd be living in construction, but then after that point, it's like, I'm driving to a house because we're on a time crunch or whatever. I need to get this thing rented out. So I'm getting off work at 5. I'm going to the house. We're putting the kids down there in bedrooms that are in construction, and then we're working on the house until 11, 12, whatever, and then going home, sleeping for 6 hours, waking back up, going back to work. Weekends, that's where we're at. Like, there was a lot of sacrifices involved, and people are not willing to do that. That's the problem.
And they think they're like, well, and there's a phrase I think I would hear a lot is, people shouldn't have to. But the thing is that there is no would or shouldn't about it. It is, are you willing to take that risk? Are you willing to put in that sacrifice and reap the reward? And then also, from your perspective, when you were doing that, it's reap the potential reward. So there's this risk factor involved when people invest in real estate, where sometimes you can lose your shirt. And so you need to put in those criteria in order to protect yourself, because when we take the sacrifice, yes, you're reaping this amazing reward but it wasn't guaranteed, and you're willing to take a sacrifice at that point in time.
Yeah, people tell me it's like, well, white privilege, or you got daddy's money or whatever else. It's like, daddy didn't give me any money. Like when I had to pay for my own college. I have a degree as a youth pastor, which I haven't used, but
yes, that youth pastor degree does lead to a lot of money.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, being a pastor, you're just so wealthy. But no, I never got a job with it. I needed money, so that's where I landed a job as a cell phone rep, because I just needed something to get me by. Ended up really enjoying it, but it's like I paid my own way through private college. I paid for my own vehicles, my own phone, my own insurance, everything. It's like I had to pay for my own stuff, and I had to be creative if I wanted to be able to live a different life. So yeah, I mean it's available and people can still do it. Like, is it more difficult now than it was in 2015? Maybe. I mean, houses are going to keep appreciating. Real estate's going to keep getting harder to buy. But there's lots of different things that you can do in different avenues to find it. So it's like, I remember sitting there and just seeing people that were doing the stuff that I'm doing now. Like, I could never get to that point. Like, listening to these podcasts, like what we're recording now, where maybe somebody's going to listen to this and be like, well, like that guy got a lucky, like he, was at the right time, right place. It's like, I said that to myself. I sat around feeling sorry for myself that I didn't get lucky like these other people did. It's like, man, like you will not accomplish anything. You will keep sitting around being sorry for yourself unless you get up and you take action and you
Amazing.
decide to actually do it. So it's like, there's risk in everything for sure. I mean, we take calculated risk because I'm buying properties that for the most part I've sat on the market for a while and people don't want, or that are heavily in need of cosmetic updates, where if I do the work, I know that if the rental falls through or whatever, then I could just resell it and make money that way.
Well, I think people need to keep in mind I've heard people complain regarding, say, the idea of gentrification. What people don't understand, when it comes to house flippers and the whole idea of gentrifying a neighborhood, is most house flippers are buying houses no one else wants, and also buying houses no one else can buy, because most residential mortgages, they require the house to be livable. And so that's why it's great for you to have that line of credit, is that you can buy these non-livable houses that can't qualify for normal mortgages, and you're able to turn a vacant property that no one else can live into this really amazing place for people to live.
Even just so this last house that we bought over near Drake University. It was owned by college students, and they had cats inside, and they never apparently took them out to the bathroom. So we found drugs in the house, pretty serious drugs actually, and just cat urine smell so strong. We had to rip all of the flooring out of the basement, even new flooring, because it was just soaked. The trim was swollen because there was so much cat pee in it. Had to use ozone machines and special treatments and barriers and everything to get it out. But
replacing the subfloor?
Now it's great. It was on concrete, so unfortunately no. But I bought this house for $225,000. It had just gone on the market. There had been a couple other people looking at it, but I offered this guy asking price on a conventional loan, and we were able to get it because even though there was cat urine and stuff, and it was pretty beat up on the inside, it wasn't. It still checked the boxes. But like, I did what anybody else could do. It's like, I'm not taking a house from somebody, some family that needs a place. It's like, I'm buying a house that other people looked at, didn't want, they didn't put offers on. I bought this thing. We ended up putting $50,000 into this house. That was for renovations and furnishings. It was about 20 to 25 in renovations, which we did ourselves. So if you didn't do that yourselves, you're probably looking more like, $50,000 to $70,000 renovation costs if you're paying somebody to do all that plus the furnishings. But so if we're just looking at renovations, about 20 to 25 in renovations. So I'm about 245 to 250 into it. But like, I'm doing this with money that I have that a lot of people wouldn't have that money to use to renovate in the first place or the time to do it. And then now, the houses that are comparable in the neighborhood are selling for 300 to 325. So it's like, now I built that equity in there, but like, anybody can do that stuff. It's just, are you willing to take the time and the money and put in the risk and stuff? And we run it as and we're running it as a short-term rental now. Awesome. We put it on Airbnb, and the first month we had $9,600 in revenue in bookings. The second month we did $98,000 in revenue. So But yeah, we'll see over $80,000 to $90,000 a year
Amazing.
in revenue from that house, so we're cash flowing. I don't know, $5,000 a month or so right now. So
I see this amazing kind of pattern with you as well of kind of being very, very creative in the ways that you can maximize each of these units.
Yeah.
So even when you're talking about with your first house, like most people look at a single family house, they're like, well, I just live here, that's it.
Yep.
And you saw it as a method of like, I'm gonna make these strategic improvements.
Yeah.
In order to improve it, and then being able to sell it or keep it or rent it out for
Yep.
more. And then the same thing with here, looking at these short-term rentals, and the Drake area is not necessarily the greatest area.
No,
in
yeah,
Des Moines.
it's yeah.
But you're able to see this amazing opportunity that maybe someone else wouldn't be able to. And I think
it's about filling that void. When we started investing in short-term rentals, which was back in 2021, I had been listening to people a lot. I had the analysis paralysis going on big time. Even though I was a real estate investor and I had bought a bunch of properties, I was scared to do short-term rentals because it could never be successful in Des Moines, right? I still talk to people about it and they're like, no way would I ever buy there. That's not a vacation destination. Well, there still needs to be, I coined the term accommodation locations near hospitals and event venues and hotels and colleges and stuff like that, where people are still traveling, maybe not for vacation, but for other reasons.
Business,
We've got Iowa State Fair going on. I'm seeing $500 a night at some of these houses during this time because of the demand. So, fill that void. We had our first month on that house live. I filled the void where not a lot of people have large properties in Des Moines on Airbnb. So
that's awesome.
that was kind of where I targeted was let's do some larger homes. So I sleep 10 people at one and then 14 and 14 at the other two. And then we went all out and made Smoky Mountain style properties where it's hot tubs and game rooms and murals and themes. I've got the corn crib, the cow tipper, the hayloft, where it's kind of fun,
Why do people come to Iowa?
Yeah, it's
it's for the barn style
yeah,
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
But if you look on Airbnb for houses that sleep more than 8 people in Des Moines, my houses are the 3 top ones, the first ones on the list. And our first month we had 97% occupancy. We only had one open night.
Amazing.
The first month of being live at this new house.
What month of year was that?
June.
Awesome.
June. We went live May 30th and had 6 bookings come in within 24 hours, and the first one checking in the next day. So, when you
go live, you got to go live. You got to be ready to rock and roll.
But I talk to other investors who do short-term rentals in Des Moines, and they're like, I'm barely cutting even. According to a lot of AirDNA and these other sites, they're showing that in Des Moines is not a great market to invest in for short-term rentals. But it's just like with anything else, it doesn't need to be Des Moines, Iowa, but find something that people are not doing great in, or there's a void there, and just crush it.
And you're increasing the quality as well.
Yeah, I'm increasing the quality of the neighborhood. Other houses are appreciating because of the work that we're doing too. Yeah.
So, looking, if you're going to give some advice to someone who's just starting with Airbnbs, especially with you having the experience that you've had doing better than the market in these markets, what were some of the main tips you would give when someone's looking to buy that first Airbnb?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
What are the biggest tips you're going to give for someone who's looking to buy the first Airbnb on how to do what you've done when it comes to even beating the market in different ways?
Yeah, so I see people comment a lot, Airbnb is dead or dying or whatever, and Airbnb is losing market share and all these other things. It's the reason why is because in 2021 and 2022 there was this Airbnb boom where everybody and their grandma was throwing their properties on Airbnb, and here's a couple beds and an old dirty sofa, and you can make money. Well, the problem is now it's become far more competitive.
Yes.
So the reason that Airbnb, might not be doing as great as it was before is because there's so many people doing it, and there's so many terrible hosts out there that are losing money on their properties because now the competition's increased, and people like myself are doing everything possible to have these super properties or whatever you want to call them.
The super hosts?
Bill Faith uses that term, but I have properties where I think the key things are, number one, amenities. I have hot tubs at all of mine. Hot tub is the number one search amenity on Airbnb, so why would you not have that? Number two, like, laundry rooms, and then washer and dryer is actually the second top search amenity, which is interesting.
There you go.
But,
accessible laundry.
and then I bring in a local mural artist, Laura Todd.
cool.
She's awesome, but she did a huge wall at this last one. Where I'm paying $1,300 for a wall to be painted, which seems like a lot, but it's one of our hero photos, and it stops the scroll on Airbnb and makes people click on the property. What is going on here? This is not.
You
just
have
a
it as
house.
the first photo there. That's awesome.
And then I'm spending $600 on these arcade one-up game systems and putting those in. What do I have? Like the Simpsons game and Marvel stuff, and then buying big screen TVs with Wii's and game systems and building custom carpet ball tables has been my new thing.
Very cool.
And big fire pit areas, customs. Like I found a guy that I'm buying Adirondack chairs from now that builds them local, and doing all these extra things, theming and having a experience, not just a place to sleep. And that's what differentiates us from a hotel. It's like we're a fun place to have an experience at, to bring your whole family to be able to enjoy your time there, not just some beds to sleep in. So that's number one. Number two then would be optimizing that experience by having professional photos done. I am shocked by how many people do not pay a professional real estate photographer to come in and take photos, because Airbnb algorithm can even differentiate between professional photos and non-professional if it's taken from a camera phone or something. Like they know the difference between the two. I don't know if it's based off of upload or whatever else, or
resolution or something.
Maybe, I don't know, but they can differentiate, and they will promote the properties that have the professional photos.
That's awesome.
But if you're just taking some dark photos on a camera, on a smartphone, it's not going to draw the attention of people. You've got this killer property, take killer photos. We spend $200 for a photo shoot, which if that gets me even one night, I've far surpassed that. So the professional photos, pricing optimization, we use Price Labs. Which those guys are awesome, but it automatically adjusts my prices every 24 hours to market demand and specific dates and competition and stuff. So I don't have to do anything with pricing, but it fluctuates that for me and helps fill in some of those voids. And then being strategic with my orphan nights and my minimums and all of those things. And then being an awesome host and having great communication, doing those things, that's what you got to do to have a killer property.
And I feel like when you hear these, the tips, the things you're doing in your properties, it doesn't take a genius to realize, oh, of course these are doing well. Because you're taking the time to make these things special and to make sure the photos are high quality and making sure that they are an experience, which is amazing. And I think sometimes with this real estate stuff, and it can seem very hard or it can seem very scary, but understanding it's we don't need to be a genius here. What we want to do is we want to create a great experience for our guests and provide that value. And I think really, to be honest, you are adding value to the experience. Of course, I would definitely be willing to pay more for a night stay at Airbnb, whether it's $50 or $100, if it has there's a beautiful mural, it has this fun entertainment systems, has the hot tub, of course. These are great things, so that's awesome, man.
I know some of these websites showed, potential revenue earning just based off of a competition, 30 to 40,000 a year in revenue, and these properties that they guess 30 to 40, we're doing 80 to 90. So
amazing.
Where we can double what our competition is doing because of that, because of those reasons. So, but and at the end of the day, man, it's all about, like I said, use your evenings and weekends to build the life that you want, and put in the time. Learning and educating. Surround yourself with people that you want to be. You want to be living a lifestyle like they are, and learn from them. I continuously try to surround myself with people through conferences that I go to and relationships that I work on that are doing better than me. I don't want to be the smartest guy. I have so much that I need to learn. Through this real estate deal and entrepreneurship. I'm attending a meetup in Las Vegas next month, actually.
Cool.
Sean Kelly.
Okay.
So I think he's got one of the biggest podcasts in the country, but
cool.
he interviews entrepreneurs and stuff, right? And you're going to be the next Sean Kelly, by the way. You've got it. You can get there.
That's the goal. There you go.
But I got an invite for it. They found me through social media. So,
Very cool.
yeah, that's the last step. Post about it on social media, man, because I've made more on social media just posting content than I made for my salary with Google. So,
there you go.
Yeah. So we can talk about that later
Awesome,
too.
man. Oh, yeah, I'd love that again.
But yeah, they found me on social media and invited me out to this exclusive monthly meetup that he does, where 80% of the people in the room are generating over $1 million a year in revenue. So I'm the 20% that's not. So I'm going to surround myself with a bunch of people. So it's like, I'll pay, $600 to fly out there, stay in a hotel, to be there for 4 hours at an event. But it's worth it to me because I see the ROI on putting myself in a position like that with people that are, that are doing these things. So it's like,
and I think that's really great to surround yourself with the people that you want to be like. Because if you're the richest person amongst your group of friends, and not that your friendships are all about that, but if you're looking at trying to take a step out and say you're making $35,000 a year and you're trying to look for an opportunity to make more, hanging around friends that like you as you are for the person that you are.
Yep.
And who are going to resist you making those changes that you need to make to yourself.
Yeah.
And we're talking about discipline and learning and pursuing these entrepreneurial ventures.
Yeah.
That's definitely going to be able to hold you back. And so being able to put yourself around people who you want to be like is going to be key.
Yeah, it's hard too because like what I've learned as well is a lot of your friends and stuff are people that you have acquaintances with, maybe not great friends, but a lot of people like to talk about nothing, like to talk about other people. That's the key that I've learned is like you put yourself, you get together with people. Yeah, have you heard about this that happened with this sports player or celebrity, or how's this football team doing, or yada yada yada. But people don't like to talk about themselves. And when you start talking about yourself, people look at you like you're just being boastful or you're trying to. It's like you don't want to be around those people. It's like you want to be around people that. Hey, Micah, like, what are you doing to grow yourself personally, spiritually?
Amen.
What are you doing as a father? What are you doing as a husband? What are you doing in your business to grow? How are you taking the next step? Those are the type of people that you want to be around and surround yourself with that encourage you and
gives
that
you
push
so much
you.
energy and excitement.
Yeah. So like some of your friends may change as you do that as well because you want to be. I've got a group of friends that I've created through actually some of these conferences. These guys are in Wisconsin, the guys that bought the boutique hotel without me because they're losers. But no, they like we talk. I mean, almost every other day. We've got a group chat going on, and we get on a video call once every few months and discuss goals for the year and just kind of what we're doing. And so like surround yourself with people like that. So.
Well, Matthew, I think we're running out of time here. But dude, I appreciate you coming out and I appreciate you sitting down. I think there's a lot of great advice there for people when they're looking at kind of how to set themselves up well and pursuing things like short-term rentals and buying their first house. So, dude, thank you. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Social media, probably the best way. Rental cash flow, rental.cashflow or Matt Krueger. TikTok is the biggest way, which I never thought I'd be doing, but that's another conversation for another day. But I post just real life stuff on there, things that we're doing, tips, real estate tips and tricks. Instagram, I've been working on that too. Same thing, rental cash flow, Matt Krueger. So
awesome, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you for watching the Million Ways to Millions podcast. I hope this episode helped offer some encouragement to you on your own path to building wealth, retirement, and financial stability. If you like this episode, please consider subscribing on your podcast platform of choice. If you want to watch the video version, check it out on my YouTube channel, Micah Hayworth. If you want to see more, follow me on Instagram at Micah Hayworth or Twitter at House Hayworth. Thanks for watching.